I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah.
Great, great. Well, thank you very much for agreeing to do the interview. So
Oh, no.
just quickly tell you this is for the Language of Film website. So it's just a small website dedicated to film reviews, interviews, and with some language learning for international students.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure how long we've got,
I think you're my
but
last one.
right, okay. So I'll try and I'll try and keep the questions nice and easy, and if it's okay with you, can I record?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So well, I guess we may as well get cracking then.
Yeah.
Um, So if I can just start record. Right. So here we go. Three, two, one, and we are
Recording
live.
in progress.
So hello. Thank you for joining us today at the Language of Film. Could you please introduce yourself and your film?
Hi there. My name is Daniel Glenn-Barbour, and my new feature film is called Yes Man.
And so tell us, Daniel, tell us a little bit about the script and how did the story come about?
How did the story come about? It took a long time. I had written the story. Imagine I had written the story before really putting in the structure. So it was very backwards at times because of a lack of, preparation, you could say, and knowledge in what you're supposed to do. Um, I'm not a writer firsthand. To be fair, I've done cinematography and video editing much longer than I've written anything. Um, it being my first feature film, I told myself to write what I knew and don't try to write what I think the world wants to see. Um, from a lot of advice, urban dramas are the lowest, if not the genre that's not respected the most of all genres, you could say. Drama is extremely difficult to create. That's why they say that horrors and love high school films are like the best films to make because everyone loves them. Now Marvel. But I said if this is going to be my first goal and it's going to be practice, you know, um, then I'm going to write what I know. And I took influences from the first 30 years of my life and put it in a film.
Well, it was certainly very dramatic and intense, and like you say, taking on a subject. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to do with gangs, knife crime. Um, but there's a social conscience as well to it. There seemed to be, a little bit to do with family, with dating, and also I thought with not belonging or feeling like an outcast, maybe with like the corporate world and even the gang world.
Yeah,
Um, was that something you wanted to get across?
I felt like anything outside of what you invest within yourself, and if you ever feel you want to be a part of a group, it can be considered a gang. And I mean that to be any group. You can be a football fan, you can be a police officer, you can be in your group hanging out on the street, you can be in a dance group. The word gang is a word before the urban streets took it on. It existed long before it. Um, it I learned a long time ago. Sorry, not I learned. I regretted for a long time spending so much time trying to impress other people, wanting to be seen It's like I never saw the greatness in myself unless someone else saw it. And a lot of us live like that. That's why we're on social media the way we are, and we care about followers, and it's kind of like the fabric of our society. Do you know what I mean? And despite and going into it, I wanted the knife. So if you notice, you never really see a knife. Do you notice when you watch the film, you don't actually see a knife any time at all in this film? I knew if you did, someone would call it a gang film. You know what I mean? And I had to get away from that. But at the same time, if you look at the Italian mafia, gang, right? But there's 100 Godfathers, right? There's Goodfellas. Just the star of Goodfellas, I forgot his name. Brilliant actor. He just passed away, And Goodfellas is my top 20 film. Do you know what I mean? Not because of the gang element. Do you know what I mean? It's funny, it's sassy, and Robert De Niro's fantastic in it. Joe Pesci. Um, there's so much deeper things happening. When you hear the news of something happening, how did the mother feel? You know, you see in the film the lead, he's not even from the hood. He lives in Braintree with his mum in the countryside. Do you know what I mean? But there's something that attracts him to this place. It's the reason why so much was done to stop things like hip hop coming to light. But there was a massive audience that love struggle. They just love the articulation of struggle and life not being easy. And, you know, um, not to say that the world has become that, not to say everyone's a victim now, but everyone now belongs to we'll call it a social group, but it could be seen as a gang. Everyone's a part of this social group that's oppressed. Everyone is now. Everyone belongs. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's a part of it. Even if you wanted to say that, I saw something that said the heterosexual white man is the new oppressed group. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone's attacking him. Like, do you know what I mean? So yeah, if that answers your question, obviously I'm throwing so many elements at you with it.
Well, yeah, tell us more then about the title of the film as well, because that's quite interesting, with the whole beginning of the film as well, that he starts out in the sort of the corporate office, and he's
I was
making the
very
teas.
strategic, making this film. I had to be very strategic. You know what I mean? Originally, it started off with guys in a room smoking weed, and I gave it to one of my mentors, and he goes, "Come on, Daniel, this is stereotypical," and I'm like, it's legal to smoke weed in Barcelona, and why is it there? But these are the stigmas, and this is a real thing. And yeah, you're right. Drugs, violence is a part of any impoverished community, and there's one in anywhere you go. Even if you're in Europe, there's poor places, there's violence, there's gangs. Do you get what I mean? It's not just stereotypical to an urban setting. If you get what I mean, and I say urban because yeah, black is quite strong. You know what I mean? Sorry, to your original question. Why yes man? We're all yes men. We're all yes men. You got a wife, right? You got a wife. You got a husband. You're gonna do what they say sometimes just to make life a little bit easier for what you want in life. Do you know what I mean? That's what stereotypically, or not even stereotypically, the term yes man is seen as a very extreme thing. A yes, just do whatever someone says, orders, etc., etc. But I think there's levels to it. And someone said it to me after they watched the preview that the main guy is not the only yes man in the film. I know. I did that on purpose. Do you get what I mean? So when it's easy to judge him, you actually realize that you identify with someone in that film, even if it's an element of it, even if it's the girls in the calf. She doesn't want to wave to him because your friends don't want to. You can't wave at him, and she gives a little seed of I can wave at who I want, but she doesn't leave to go and say hello to him. It's a little, hoping no one saw. We're all yes people, and I was a yes man for a very long time, very long time. If the group's not doing it, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and well, it just brought in lots of, different elements, like you say, and yeah, well, the locations as well. I was because, like you say, it could be any city, it could be any town in the UK, basically. But I was assuming it was going to be a London sort of story. Um, but then you start with this shot of, the ferry or the cruise ship,
yeah.
and I was like, oh, why was that there? Why did you choose that?
That's just the location of the offices that we used, to be fair. The offices were in not Fairhook. Do you know, like past Dagenham? That's where we
Right?
ended up
Yeah.
shooting it. To be fair, I needed office buildings. If we could have found one in Central, then it probably would have been Central, a drone shot of. But there's rules and stuff like that to flying drones in the city. Um, but yeah, I did go into this thinking, what is the last thing that people are going to expect, and what is the stereotypical thing they're going to expect? I got to a stage in the creation of this realizing that everything I did had to be something that made the audience go, "Oh, I didn't expect that." Because if you're being told you're going to watch an urban drama, crime drama, you're going to go, "Nah, I've seen it because I watched Blue Story the other day, or I watched Top Boy the other day," and you're going to feel like you don't want to watch it. That is the real stigma of a of an urban film based off someone from lower class society. No one's interested. A lot of people are not interested, and a lot of people see a lot of stereotypes when they come to it. You know, Again, no one complains when another, the Irishman comes out. He's made 100 of these films, but it's fantastic, right? We watched it for 3 hours. We didn't care. Do you know what I mean? And they're killing people. Like, who's a bigger gang than the Italian mafia? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I just had to, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought the locations were great, and they just, captured that, it could be any town, any city, which was good. And I mean, you mentioned Top Boy there. I mean, obviously, there'll be comparisons with that, and you know, the timing with it, with the next film coming out. But
Yeah.
it's captures that appeal. I think that why that was so successful, that it still had that sort of, yeah, we talk about the mafia, and
Yeah.
it's more of an American thing almost, whereas in the UK maybe it's different, but there's still that sort of, the youths and living where
Yeah.
where they do,
But that's why the locations were so
trying to stay on the
important.
right path.
I think that's why you're very correct to mention locations, because I actually spoke about this a couple of days ago. And when I watched the film, because I had to like deal with like the ADR, I mean the ADR and the surround sound because I'm editing the film, and I said to my producer, I was like, we actually done quite well, because you're never really in the hood in this film all the time. Like, you are either in his parents' house or somewhere, the calf. But what's funny, actually, if I give you a funny thing, and it's not just the world that's stuck in a box. One of my friends who's actually from the neighborhood, he didn't like the calf scene. I said, why? He goes, because that's not really represents where we're from. And I'm like, but the calf is in the hood. The actual calf scene is down the road from the neighborhood. It's just when you walk past it, you don't necessarily consider those ladies from the neighborhood because they're not hanging on the street, or they live in the neighborhood. They live in council housing. But it's about what you choose to do with your life. Do you get what I mean? It's more the lifestyle that creates the image of the hood. If you live in a council house and both your parents work and you want to be a doctor, you live in the hood. You're from the hood. But they can't put stereotypes on you only until you hear council housing. If you get what I mean. So you're right when you mention the locations. The locations allowed me to make this film not be the stereotypical image of what a, although great films, Blue Story or Adulthood and Top Boys. It was about the locate. The location helped it majorly.
Yeah, yeah. And of course the characters. So I mean, let's talk about the characters a little bit, because again, there's a nice sort of mix that it's not all bad and so on. There are like the relationship with who is it, Ryan and Daryl,
Yeah,
you know he may be doing maybe criminal things, but at the end of the day, he wants a better life. He wants to better himself.
and you see where even Daryl, when he says, "I want to," he goes, "What do you want to do?" And he goes, "I want to be a chef," and he laughs. He goes, "A chef," because we don't really speak like that. I've done that. That scene's actually taken from something real, where I was walking down the road with one of my mates. But he's definitely my mate, but it's friends through friends, and we had to walk the same direction or something. And I say it to everybody I talk to, even people my age. What do you want to do? Especially if people are in a job they don't want to really be doing and they've got a passion. I constantly ask people what their passions are, because you never know. I maybe can facilitate. And my friend said he wants to be a chef, and I was like, "You want to cook? Like, really?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I love cooking." I was like, "You love cooking?" And between me and you, he dabbles in, what I mean, illegal activities or whatever. But even I was the guy going, "You got to be in a kitchen," and he's like, "Yeah, I've done it before." I was like, "You've been a chef before." I was like, but even I can be someone who can stereotype my own colleagues or friends. So it happens.
Yeah. And well, yeah, and again, it's that whole pit thing, isn't it? Uh, is bagging up weed any better than
Nipping coke,
slicing
yeah.
tomatoes?
Oh yeah, maybe that as well, yeah.
But
I mean, that's why. Do you know what it is? Because also when it comes to that side of things, I did that purposely because the two ladies in the beginning, Anita and Isabella, you know, you realize that throughout the film, Anita, who is the CEO of this company, and her company ends up being dissolved because she's got an addiction to cocaine. And to me that was the comparison. You know what I mean? That's why specifically, even though you don't actually see the drugs. There's one scene we see a bit of weed, but it is MPs that do cocaine. It is corporate people that do cocaine. So if anyone was to look at the film and go, "Oh, it's just about drugs," it's like, yeah, but none of the normal guys are taking drugs. Yeah, someone has to give it to you. Do you know what I mean? But when Boris Johnson said the other day that, oh, someone found out there was residue of cocaine down the road from Boris Johnson's office, but are we not going to listen to an MP now because he does drugs? Do you know what I mean? Or are we just going to condemn lower class people for? Do you get where I'm coming from? So yeah.
well, yeah, that yeah, it's goes much further.
Mm.
Um, so the characters. So I mean, the actors, I felt, they came across, like, okay, they were intimidating, and there was an element. Well, there was the tension was built, but they seemed quite natural or quite comfortable in the roles. I mean, yeah, how did you do the casting, and what sort of preparation did you do?
You know what? It's been a great day for interviews because that's such a good question. That's such a good question because I I had a method to it. So the fact that you're saying that means it worked. Um, I always, in my experience, trying to get an actor to play a role that seems very different to theirs, method acting or something like that, completely transforming. It takes someone with real experience to be able to do that. I've realized that. I've learned that. Whether it's Joaquin Phoenix in the Joker, do you know what I mean, or it's just whoever. Um, what I felt was if I base the characters on the people I've casted's natural personality, they won't have to go too far in their performance. Um, Not to say that Ryan sells drugs or anything. Do you know what I mean? But I knew he couldn't play Daryl. Do you get what I mean? I knew that. Um, Funny enough, Ben's character, I didn't necessarily want him to play it like that. I wanted Ben's character to be played the way Tumac played his character. The big guy the dark skinned guy who's coming, he's really scary. Um, I wanted Ben's character to be played like him, a bit like Dave in Top Boy, the first bit of Top Boy where he plays a guy called Mooney, and it's like a Joker, like a crazy Joker type of villain who you love, but he's crazy. Do you know what I mean? Um, and it wasn't working. But then, so what I had to do is accept the work that me and Kurt Smith had done in trying to create Ben's character, allowing Kurt to be a little bit more himself, but being able to still be a dictator to his group. Um, and then what that did organically, beautifully, is allowed Tumac's character to be that more scarier than Ben's character. A lot of people confused Daryl, Ben, Ryan's group to be this gang, and actually they're just a bunch of wannabes. They're actually a bunch of people who want to. If you notice when you watch the film, they don't control their area. Tumac does. And the ambition to want power, just like the fabric of our world. You know, you know that's what happens when you trickle down, and someone wants to control something that's not even theirs. This name is cancelled. It's not even yours. Do you know what I mean? But there's so much insecurity, so much mental health in wanting to belong, wanting to have ownership, that the ambition is so much, but there's no pathway to really knowing how to execute that ambition. So in terms of your original question, how did I cast? You know, you, s- I spoke to everyone. And I knew who could play certain roles. I knew that. I knew when I created it who I had in mind already. Before I wrote the script, Ben was the guy, Kurt Smith and Keon Marshall Phillip. They were already casted to do it before I wrote it. So I already knew who their characters were going to be when I wrote it. So I already knew them. So it was easy, yeah, when it comes to that. Sorry, a long-winded answer. I waffle sometimes.
Good, good. And so then the language in the script I thought was really great too. I
Oh, thank
mean,
you.
it was just, very, I mean, I presume very authentic street language,
Yeah.
and it was, um, yeah, it just had lots of,
I
funny
was,
sort of expression. Well, not funny, but sort of not typical,
yeah.
expressions you'd expect, but were quite sort of, edgy.
Have you got an example of one of them?
Well, just the sort of, the sort of little phrases like "fam" or "blood," and
Yeah.
or
So, so to be,
then it gets sort of more some of the extreme sort of phrases as well.
yeah,
But
I was always, there's always a stigma when telling these types of stories, these street stories or whatever. And what ends up happening is they get watered down. So words get used that we would never naturally say. And you can always tell that someone from outside of the community is telling this story. Um, my thought process wasn't to water down the language, but to keep it real as possible. And if it's a good film, if you don't know the word, you're gonna want to know the word, right? Funny enough, to be fair though, in the premiere, I had a list of names and translations like, for the audience, and everyone laughed at the beginning of the film. um, I don't think I've done that in this version of the film. I didn't put a bunch of slang words and the English words for them or anything. But again, going into it, I knew I had to keep it authentic. and I wasn't gonna be. Someone did say to me, my aunt, funny enough, my aunt is very well spoken, and she criticizes me all the time on how I speak. Um, and she was like, "Yeah, but Daniel, maybe make it friendly for those that don't understand." So I said, "Yeah, but we just watched Squid Games, and that was in Japanese. Do you know what I mean? Like there were subtitles, so it can be done. You can watch a good film and not necessarily understand everything. But the thing about slang, it's like broken English, so you will understand it."
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was even one part where you actually did use subtitles. Now, I don't know. I think that was maybe for, I don't know, was it part of the effect
Artistic. It was
of,
more artistic.
yeah,
Yeah, it was more
yeah.
artistic. Yeah, it
But
was
yeah,
more.
how that would, how, yeah, an international audience would maybe would have to have subtitles anyway, I'm sure.
True, it's true because you know what? I saw a post. A rapper came over to London, and he was talking about the love he gets in London, and he said that people were writing in the comments, "Cold, oh that's cold, yeah that's cold," and the frozen sign, and they was like, "Yeah man, that's some London stuff," and I was like, "Well, you guys don't know what cold means." Like, if someone's got, "Yeah, that's cold," it means it's good. But I didn't realize no one in the way the word's being used in a sentence, that even that word, hot and cold, it's like, what is hard to understand about the way it's being used, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing. So I tried to limit it. I didn't see. I can adapt. I could speak much more. I could speak much deeper in my slang if I wanted to. Do you know what I mean? But you switch, it's code switching, and I made sure that not every character, done that. So when you're watching the scenes with the parents, they don't speak that way. Do you know what I mean? When you're with the ladies, they don't speak that way. When you're in the office, they don't speak that way. It's only when you're amongst the fellas. And even then, I think you can understand. The first scene, they're watching Boris Johnson on on the screen. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I feel like it can be translated.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously enjoyed it and thought it was a great part of, yeah, the film.
Thank you.
Um, and yeah, going into some of your directing and some of the effects. I mean, I really enjoyed that part of it. That
Thank you.
it seems a lot of variation and like you say, for effect or stylistic sort of
Yeah.
choices. Um, where did that all come from?
Do you know what? I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Going into this, I didn't think anyone would care. I didn't think anybody would enjoy it. I thought everyone would stereotype it and dislike it. Um, I kept thinking that. However, I never stopped thinking that I need to find every moment for this to stand out. Every moment. Every moment. Um, and I went with how I felt. I was lucky that I didn't have. Don't get me wrong. I've got my team, Adrian Grant, who's like my first AD and is the core of my team, and he deals with all our equipment and stuff like that. And Angelica is the producer. I always advise them. I always seek advice from them if I'm not sure about something, and they are fantastic. Um, but I went with how I felt. So, for example, the scene after Ryan shoots the gun and everyone disperses, and Daryl goes back to Ryan's house, and Ryan shouting at him, you don't have to be here. You don't have to do these. You don't have to do this. Seek approval from these guys. I did it in one shot, so I kept it in one shot. I didn't. I tried not to cut, um, because I felt it wouldn't do it justice if I'm cutting between shots. I've wanted to keep it in one shot. Um, so I did go on how I felt, and I think I'm lucky because some people are directors and writers, but they're not cinematographers. Do you get what I mean? So with everything I create, I think about everything. I think about everything. Yeah. So that's how I was able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I say, it was enjoyable. You know, it kept a good sort of pace and energy, and you know, a lot
Thank
of
you.
interesting sort of shots, selections, and effects. And then, of course, I've got to mention the soundtrack as well, and the music was that pretty important to the film.
Do you know what? I'm not gonna lie. That everything was a strategy. Everything was a strategy. Um, I don't necessarily reach out to people I don't necessarily know. Um, a lot of the time, there's a mindset that comes with it sometimes, well, I got to speak to my manager and it's like, bro, I'm just trying to create some art. Like, can we just create some art? Do you know what I mean? And I did see it as, I'll be completely honest. I thought if I put all these people in this bucket, right? For 20 actors, 20 artists, all these different people, the network will be massive. The promotion, even if half these people promoted to 10 people, will be massive. We might not make any money, but at least we'll be a step further in people recognizing us for what we're trying to do. And that's not just me, that's actors, that's musicians. Oh. I love when you count me out. That's
Connection.
my bad. Yeah, that's and that would self promote the generate. Do you know what I mean? You won't need a distributor. You won't need the industry. That'll be organic. So that was my thought process. I did have to enjoy the music to some extent, but not every song is on my playlist on my phone. You know what I mean? And I knew a lot of people, and I wanted to help a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? If they wanted the platform to produce their music, here's a platform, and you never know what can happen. You could be being interviewed by a language of film, and you never know. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, and again, yeah, I think it just added to that whole yeah story film and gave it that authenticity again. What I would imagine,
thank you,
and it was just cool, right? It was there were some good tracks there and
thank you,
created a good atmosphere that fitted the story.
thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Um, Now we've not got much time left, so I just wanted to quickly sort of, say, how I enjoyed the film, but also, ask you, what would you recommend then to any other filmmakers out there to go about making a film?
I say we all have stories that are very special. We all have stories. Every filmmaker has their own story. The easiest stories to write is our own. It's very easy to write your own story. You just have to believe that your story is worth being told. Um, I had very little support trying to make this film, but I had a lot of time. I had a lot of time and I had a lot of drive. I had a lot of dark days and a lot of tears making this film. Um, it's a little bit easier for me because I'm from this world and I do cinematography and I do video editing, direct and write. That, but I write because who was going to give me a script? So I tell actors all the time, write your own story, especially if you feel like you're being typecasted. So yeah, just don't be afraid, and your story is worth telling. So write it because no one else is going to do it for you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Daniel. So, Yes Man is available. When's it available?
The
Is it
13th of
the
June.
13th of June? So
Yeah.
that'll be available to download.
Yeah, Amazon, yeah, Sky Store, all of that. Yeah, man, it's quite epic. I don't think it's sunk in yet.
Okay. Well, fantastic, and thank you for today's interview.
Thank you so much, man, and have a great day. And thank you so much for your time.
Recording stopped.
Right, stop the recording. Great. So thank you very much, Daniel. That
Thank you,
was
man.
brilliant. Appreciated that. Sorry if my questions were a little bit all over the
Nah,
place,
I
or
was all
I
over
was a
the
little bit
place.
nervous.
It was me. I was all over
Um,
the place.
but no, it was great. It was great. No, I wanted mention as well what so there was one thing with like the some of the dubbing as well. Was there anything with this the sound that was problematic
Yeah,
doing it, or
100%.
um
Originally, we had no ADR at first. Originally, the sound got deleted. Like one of the big scenes with Max character that we did about 13 pages in one day, and it was a lot of scenes and no names. Someone formatted the card, yeah, not realizing that I haven't copied it over, so we lost loads of footage and we had to use sound from the camera. Um, so when I was doing the premiere, we hadn't actually ADR'd the film. So there's a worse version of the film out there that has no, you get me? And, ADR cost a lot of money and people live all over the place. And I couldn't pay everyone to come, and ADR. So, yeah, we ADR'd it. And, not everyone, ADR is always going to be tricky when it's not done to the best of its ability. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the end, you sort of adjust, but at the beginning, you sort of like, it's almost like one of those foreign films that's dubbed, and it sounds like it's, one of those international kind of films with that sort of effect. But you slowly, your ear gets used to
Yeah.
it, and then it feels part of the film almost, and almost, gives it another different dimension.
I'm not, do you know what? I'm not a sound editor and we couldn't afford to get one. So
Yeah.
kind of had to
Yeah.
learn it on the go. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's everyone else that put so much quality on this film.
yeah.
I never thought I'd be sitting in front of you doing an interview about this film.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just so happens that everyone loved it and,
Well,
I
that's
think
it. I
not to
mean,
notice the lack of quality.
because it's difficult to be critical, but at the same time, because I mean, I thought it was amazing. I mean,
Thank
if
you.
I could ever make a film as good as that, I would be,
I
so
appreciate that.
so
I really
happy.
appreciate that.
Um, and I appreciate, and I understand how difficult it is to get a couple of things right, let alone for a whole feature film. So
Yeah.
no, it was impressive. So
Thank you.
no, no, I was just interested to know, maybe what was going on, but yeah.
A lack of money. A lack of money. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, fantastic for an independent feature film. Amazing.
Thank you, sir, man. Thank you so much, man. You have no idea. I appreciate that.
Great stuff. Well, I look forward to seeing how it gets on.
Thank
We're
you.
going to get cut off at any second,
It's
so
all right.
thank you
If
very
you need
much for your
anything, just let
time,
me
and
know, man. Just give me an email or something. If you need anything extra, just let me know.
brilliant,
Yeah?
brilliant. Appreciate that.
All right, then,
Thank
sir.
you.
Have a great
Thank
one.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, and you.